void of space was never truly silent. To human ears, it was nothing but a vacuum, an endless black sea dotted with burning stars. But for the crews of the outer colonies, the silence was filled with the hum of reactors, the low vibration of engines, and the faint whispers of fear. They had lived under the shadow of war for weeks, yet none of them had expected it to arrive so soon. It began with a shadow. The colony of Aryan 3 orbited a pale blue gas giant, its 3 cities suspended within orbital rings. Families had lived there for decades, children playing in zero-gravity parks, engineers maintaining the solar harvesters. To them, the war was something happening far away, until the first Xyrath ship appeared. It slid out of slipspace like a knife through water, black, jagged, and monstrous, its hull alive with green bioluminescent veins. Before the human sentries could raise an alarm, the alien vessel opened. Fire bolts of plasma, hotter than the sun's heart, cut through orbital habitats like paper. Hundreds died in seconds. Inside the command station Dauntless, Captain Ilara Vey watched the sensors light up with impossible speed. Contact, multiple unknowns inbound, shields up, weapons hot. Her crew scrambled, alarms blaring, as a swarm of alien warships poured into real space. The Xyrath had come in force. The human fleet in the sector was small, 6 frigates, 2 destroyers, and her own cruiser. Outnumbered, outgunned. But there was no time for retreat. Behind them lay millions of civilians on Aryan 3. Transmit evacuation order to all colonies. Get them into jump lanes, Ilara commanded, her voice steady, though her heart thundered. And us, Captain? Asked her first officer, young and trembling. Her eyes hardened. We buy them time. The first clash came like thunder in the void. Human missiles streaked across the stars, detonating against alien shields in flashes of blue fire. The Xyrath answered with lances of emerald, plasma, burning through human armor with surgical precision. Ships exploded, their wreckage spinning silently, sparks scattering like dying fireflies. On the frigate Asterion, Commander Holt gritted his teeth as his engines took a direct hit. We're crippled, core breach imminent. There was no hesitation in his voice when he gave his final order. Reroute remaining power to engines, aim us at their destroyer. The crew understood. They said nothing, only tightened their harnesses. And then the Asterion turned into a weapon. With engines screaming, the burning frigate slammed into the nearest Xyrath ship. A silent explosion rippled through the dark, tearing both vessels. Apart on the Dauntless, Captain Ilara felt the shockwave rumble through her hull. Her throat tightened. One ship gone, but dozens of transports escaped in the chaos. Still, more Xyrath poured in. Their mothership had not even arrived yet, and already the human fleet was being torn apart. Ilara closed her eyes for half a breath. She thought of her daughter still on Earth, safe for now. She thought of the promise she had made. I will come back, Helm. She whispered, take us into the heart of them. Her crew turned, shocked. Captain, if we die, we die buying every second we can. And if humanity falls, let it be remembered that we fought. The Dauntless roared into the swarm of alien ships, missiles firing, railguns tearing streaks of light across the void. The Battle of Aryan 3 had begun. The colony of Aryan 3 was gone. Where once orbital rings glittered like necklaces around the pale blue gas giant, there was now only wreckage. Shattered metal drifting endlessly, fires flickering in the vacuum. The Dauntless limped away, her hull scarred, her shields gone. Of the 8 human warships that had stood in defense, only 3 survived the onslaught. Captain Ilara Vey's voice, hoarse but unbroken, sent the final transmission as the last transports vanished into slipspace. This is Captain Vey of the Dauntless. The colony is lost. Survivors en route to Earth. Request immediate assembly of the fleet. The Xyrath are here. 2 days later, In Earth's orbit, the great station Athena Prime held its breath. The council chamber, a vast dome of glass and steel, was filled with admirals, generals, and leaders of every human nation. Holograms of destroyed ships hung above them like ghosts. Admiral Kalen stood, his weathered face etched with fury. "We can no longer pretend this is a border skirmish. The Xyrath struck a colony of millions. They will not stop. Humanity is at war for its very survival." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some argued for retreat, consolidating forces around Earth. Others demanded vengeance. The weight of billions of lives hung in the balance. Then the hollow shroud flickered. A shape filled the chamber, the Xyrath Mothership. Images taken from long-range scouts revealed its terrible form, a colossal leviathan of blackened alloy, kilometers across, bristling with weapon pods that glowed with sickly green fire. Core pulsed like a living heart. "Size estimates?" asked one of the younger admirals, her voice trembling. 3 times larger than any human warship," the analyst replied. "Shields beyond anything we've encountered. Entire fleets could vanish against that monster." The chamber fell silent. The unspoken truth hung heavy. If the mothership reached Earth, humanity was finished. Captain Elara Vey, bruised and exhausted, stepped forward. She had been pulled from her ship only hours ago, but her voice carried the weight of steel. "I was there. I saw what they are. The Xyrath don't come to conquer. They come to erase. Every second we hesitate, another colony burns. If Earth is next, we won't survive. The only way to win this war," she pointed at the monstrous projection, "is to strike at their heart." Gasps echoed. "Attack the mothership?" someone demanded. "That's suicide." Another barked. Admiral Kalen's eyes narrowed. "Not suicide. Necessity. Every war humanity has fought, we were told we were weaker, smaller, doomed. And every time we proved them wrong, we'll do it again." The plan was madness, yet in madness lay their only hope. The fleet would rally at Mars, gathering every available warship, from ancient destroyers to newly forged battleships. Civilian crews volunteered their cargo haulers as makeshift missile carriers. Scientists rushed to arm experimental rail cannons that had never been tested in real combat. It would not be enough. Everyone knew it, but it was all they had. That night, in her quarters aboard the Dauntless, Elara sat alone recording a message. "My dearest Leora, if you are watching this, it means I did not come home. I want you to remember me not as a soldier, but as your mother. Remember that humanity does not give up, not when the night is darkest. If I fall so that you may rise, so that you may see a tomorrow worth living for. Be brave, live free, and never forget. We are stronger than we know." She stopped, her hand trembling as she saved the message into the black box. A tear slid silently down her cheek. Then she stood, straightened her uniform, and walked to the bridge. Outside the viewport, ships gathered by the hundreds, engines glowing like tiny stars against the black. A fragile armada, scarred and battered, but united. The fleet of humanity, the last line of defense, and soon the sword aimed at the alien heart. The Orion belt glittered like a river of shattered diamonds, 3 massive stars burning in eternal fire. But tonight, the void would burn with something else. War. The human fleet, nearly 200 ships strong, emerged from slipspace at the edge of the belt. Frigates and destroyers spread out in flanking formations, cruisers formed the backbone. And at the heart of it all were the newly armed dreadnoughts. Steel leviathans armed with experimental rail cannons capable of tearing through a moon's crust. On the flagship Vigilant, Admiral Kalen stood tall, hands clasped behind his back, his eyes locked on the tactical display. "Status of the fleet? All ships reporting combat ready, Admiral." the comms officer replied. Kalen gave a grim nod. Good. Then let the galaxy witness that humanity will not bow. Scouts reported the first wave of Xyrath ships slipping from hyperspace. Swarm of biomechanical frigates, sleek and dagger-shaped, their hulls glowing faintly green. Behind them came cruisers, their weapons already primed. The trap was set. Hold fire, Kalen ordered, his voice calm despite the tension on the bridge. The fleet waited in silence, ships powered low, hidden among asteroid shadows. Every heartbeat stretched into eternity. Then the enemy passed the line. Now, Kalen said. The void erupted. Hundreds of missiles streaked out from the human fleet, trailing fire as they tore into the alien formation. Asteroids shattered as rail cannons roared, slinging slugs at near relativistic speed. The first wave of Xyrath frigates vanished in blossoms of blue fire. But the aliens did not falter. Plasma lances cut through the dark, carving human ships apart. A destroyer, ironclad, was split in half, its burning hull drifting lifelessly. A civilian carrier converted into a missile barge was torn open, spilling its crew into the void. Still, the humans pressed. On board the Dauntless, Captain Ilara gritted, her teeth as her ship shook from a near hit. Return fire, don't let them regroup. Her gunners obeyed, a barrage of torpedoes striking an alien cruiser. Its shields flared green, then collapsed under the relentless assault. The ship broke apart, spilling molten shards into the abyss. Then came the turning point. A squadron of human frigates broke formation, charging directly into the enemy line. Leading them was Commander Rourke aboard the Valiant. His ship was already bleeding sparks, its armor in tatters. "Rourke, pull back!" Ilara barked over comms. "Negative," he replied, voice steady. "They want fear. Let's show them."
Fury! The Valiant dove into the heart of the alien swarm, cannons blazing. The frigate tore through one, then another before alien plasma gutted its hull.
As the reactor went critical, Rourke spoke his last words into the comms. For Earth, for the stars. The explosion was blinding. The Valiant detonated with the force of a sunflare, consuming 3 alien ships in its death throes. Silence followed, and then the humans roared. Their courage surged, their formations pressed harder, driving the enemy back. But the victory was fleeting. A ripple appeared in the void, space bending, tearing open. And then it came. The Xyrath Mothership. It dwarfed everything around it, a monstrous cathedral of black steel and green light. Its arrival alone disrupted senses, a living storm in the void. The alien fleet rallied around it like disciples worshipping a god. On the Vigilant, Kalen's jaw clenched. There it is, the heart of the beast. His hand tightened into a fist. "All ships, prepare to face hell itself." The ambush was over. The real battle was about to begin. The void trembled as the Xyrath Mothership emerged fully from slipspace. It was not merely a ship. It was a nightmare made manifest. Kilometers long, its armored hull pulsed with veins of green energy, each one alive, throbbing, as if the vessel itself were breathing. Jagged spires jutted from its frame like the bones of some titanic beast, and at its core, a blinding emerald heart pulsed with alien fury. For a long moment, the human fleet was silent. Every captain, every soldier, every civilian volunteer aboard the armada stared at the impossible colossus that now stood before them. Then, the mothership opened fire. A single lance of plasma carved across the void, slicing through a human battleship, as though it were made of paper. The Resolute, pride of the fleet, exploded in a silent blossom of flame. Thousands of lives ended in an instant. By the stars, someone whispered aboard the Dauntless. Admiral Kalen's voice thundered over the fleet-wide comms, steady as stone. "Do not break. Do not run. That thing is not a god. It bleeds, and we will make it bleed. The human fleet answered with everything it had. Rail cannons thundered, hurling slugs at near light speeds. Missiles streaked through the void in swarms, hundreds of them converging on the mothership. For a moment, it looked as if the great beast might falter. Explosions rippled across its hull, bright against the black. But then, the green shield flared to life. A sphere of shimmering energy absorbed the storm, swallowing the missiles, shattering the railgun slugs into molten fragments. When the Yelwet shield dimmed, the mothership remained untouched. On the Dauntless, Captain Ilara's heart sank. "All weapons, fire again!" she shouted. Her crew obeyed. Plasma cannons roared, torpedoes slammed into the alien Titan. The mothership staggered for only a breath, and then answered. Beams of emerald fire swept across the fleet. A destroyer split apart. 3 frigates were incinerated before they could even scream. A civilian freighter turned missile carrier tried to run, and was simply erased, nothing left but vapor. Every human ship shook under the assault, and yet none withdrew. Ilara's comms crackled to life. It was Admiral Kalen aboard the Vigilant. His voice was grim, unyielding. "We can't break its shield with distance fire. We'll have to get inside the monster's guard. Close range, coordinated strikes. That's suicide," another captain argued. "No," Kalen replied. "It's survival. Every time humanity has faced extinction, we've endured by doing what no one thought possible. We will do so again." Ilara swallowed, her hands trembling only for a moment before they steadied on the controls. "You heard the Admiral," she told her bridge crew. "Take us in. If we fall with our guns blazing." The Dauntless turned toward the mothership, engines screaming, weapons primed. Around her, dozens of human ships followed, charging straight into the storm. The void became a slaughterhouse. Human frigates darted like wolves, snapping at alien escorts, sacrificing themselves to clear paths for the larger ships. Cruisers unleashed broadsides at point-blank range, their hulls burning, their crews screaming as enemy plasma tore through decks. The Dauntless struck hard, torpedoes slamming into one of the mothership's weapon spires. For the first time, alien armor cracked. Molten green ichor spilling into space like blood. Cheers erupted across Ilara's bridge, but the victory was short-lived. The mothership's retaliation was merciless. A wave of green energy erupted outward, a shockwave that shattered half the charging formation. Ships were tossed aside like toys, hulls crushed, lives extinguished in silence. On the Vigilant, Admiral Kalen gripped the rail, eyes blazing as his flagship buckled under fire. "To all ships," he broadcast, his voice carrying like a war drum. "This is not the end. This is the beginning. Fight, damn you. Fight for every child on Earth, for every soul we lost on Arion 3, for every star that still burns free. If we must fall, we will fall as warriors. Humanity does not kneel." His words surged across the comms like fire in the blood. Broken crews straightened. Damaged ships roared back into the fray. The fleet pressed on, screaming defiance at the void, and for the first time, the mothership staggered. Its shields flickered, its armor cracked. The beast was not invincible, but the cost of victory would be unthinkable. The battlefield was a graveyard, where once 2 great fleets had clashed. Now the void was littered with wreckage, shattered hulls, drifting corpses, and the fading fire of dying ships. Of the 200 human vessels that had entered the Orion Belt, barely half remained. Most were crippled, bleeding sparks into the black, and yet the mothership still loomed. Scarred, yes. Its armor cracked, its spires shattered, but alive, breathing. A Titan surrounded by corpses. On the flagship Vigilant, Admiral Kalen stood amid smoke and chaos. His bridge was in ruins, consoles sparking, officers bleeding at their stations. Still, the tactical screen showed the truth. They were losing. "We can't sustain this much longer," his aide whispered. "If that thing charges again..." Kalen's jaw tightened. He already knew they could not win this battle conventionally. He opened the fleet-wide channel. His voice was calm but carried the weight of finality. "All ships, this is Admiral Kalen. The Mothership's core is shielded against long-range fire, but up close, inside, it is vulnerable. That is where we must strike." The channel fell silent. Every crew, every captain, every civilian heard the unspoken truth. To reach the core meant entering the Mothership itself, and none who entered would return. "This will be our gambit," Kalen continued. "A small strike force will breach its hull, reach the reactor, and detonate it from within. The rest of the fleet will hold the line to give them the chance. We may not survive, but humanity will." On the Dauntless, Captain Alara listened in silence. Her crew stared at her, waiting for her decision. She thought of her daughter, of the promise she had made. She had wanted to live, to return home, but some promises could not be kept. She rose to her feet. "Prepare for boarding run," she said quietly. The bridge froze. Her first officer shook his head. "Captain, that's a death sentence." Ilara's gaze did not waver. "Then let our deaths mean something." The plan moved quickly. A handful of frigates and cruisers volunteered for the strike. Ships too damaged to survive much longer, crews too proud to retreat. Together, they formed the spearhead. As the main fleet regrouped to throw one last desperate barrage at the Mothership, the spearhead broke off, engines burning bright as they dove straight toward the Titan's hull. The Xyrath reacted instantly, swarms of fighters pouring out like hornets. Human escorts met them head-on, dogfights raging in the void. Tiny sparks of fire marked lives ending every second. The Dauntless led the charge. Her torpedoes ripped open a fissure in the Mothership's armor, molten fragments scattering like rain. Without hesitation, Ilara drove her ship into the breach. Inside was hell. The Mothership's interior was alive. Walls pulsed like veins, energy coursing through them. Strange alien constructs floated in the corridors, spewing fire at the intruders. The Dauntless and her escorts forced their way deeper, guns blazing, crews screaming as decks ruptured. On the bridge, Ilara clung to her chair as her ship groaned under the pressure. "Status of the reactor?" she barked. "Deep core, center of the ship," her officer replied, voice broken by static. "We'll have to overload it manually. No remote detonation possible." Ilara's eyes closed for a heartbeat. Then she nodded. "Prep the warhead. I'll go." Alarm shrieked. Fires raged. The Dauntless was dying. But Ilara and a handful of Marines fought their way into the heart of the beast. The reactor chamber was vast, a cathedral of emerald light. At its center pulsed the Mothership's heart, a sphere of seething plasma, veins of green lightning lashing the chamber walls. Ilara planted the warhead against the core. Its timer flickered to life, counting down. She opened her comms one last time. Her voice was steady, though her body trembled. "To the fleet, to Earth, we have one chance. Protect the line, keep fighting, and when you see the stars burn green, know that we bought you that dawn." Her crew saluted, some weeping. None turned back. The timer hit 0. The Mothership's heart erupted. The explosion was unlike anything seen before. Emerald fire consumed the Titan from within, ripping through spires, tearing armor apart. The shockwave shattered alien ships, flinging them like debris into the void. For a moment it looked as if a second star had been born in the Orion belt. On the Vigilant, Admiral Kalen shielded his eyes from the blinding light. His voice broke just once as he whispered, "Ilara." Then silence. The Dauntless, her, captain and every soul aboard were gone. But the Mothership, was burning. Humanity's sacrifice had struck the beast's heart. The light of the explosion lingered in the void, a wound torn into the fabric of space itself. The Xyrath Mothership, the terror of 100 worlds, burned like a dying sun. Its once impenetrable hull split apart, vast chunks breaking away into drifting firestorms. Its green heart sputtered and collapsed in on itself, consumed by the warhead's fury. But the victory was not clean. The shockwave ripped through everything around it. Human ships too close to the blast were torn apart, their hulls twisted into shrapnel. A dozen brave frigates that had covered the Spearhead's charge vanished in an instant. On the flagship Vigilant, Admiral Kalen gripped the railing as alarms wailed. "Damage report. Shields gone, multiple decks breached," his aide cried. "But we're still intact, barely." Kalen exhaled slowly. His old heart ached with both relief and grief. He looked at the tactical display. The mothership was crippled, its fleet in chaos. Yet humans had paid a terrible price. Out of the armada that had rallied at Mars, less than a third still lived. Across the battlefield, the surviving human ships regrouped. Some floated without engines, life support failing. Others fought on despite hulls open to the void, their crews holding fast with sheer willpower, and then something remarkable happened. The Xyrath faltered, leaderless, their great mothership in flames, their formation broke. Some ships fled into hyperspace, their discipline shattered. Others fought on blindly, but without the mothership's command, their strikes grew erratic. For the first time in the war, the Xyrath bled fear. The humans pressed the advantage. Cruisers fired their last missiles. Dreadnoughts, battered and broken, unleashed rail slugs at point-blank range. Even cargo haulers rammed enemy destroyers, pilots screaming defiance as they went down. And then, as the mothership's remains finally collapsed into silence, the Xyrath fled. The void went quiet. On the bridge of the Dauntless, there was no cheer. There was no Dauntless, only wreckage drifting where she had once been. Captain Ilara Vey's sacrifice had bought them victory, but her name now joined the long list of the fallen. Admiral Kalen opened a private channel, recording his voice for the history archives. His tone was heavy, each word etched with sorrow. Here, at the Orion Belt, humanity faced extinction. We stood against the void, and we did not break. The Xyrath mothership is destroyed, but at the cost of thousands of our own. To those who gave their lives, your names will echo in the stars, and to those who remain, we carry the torch forward. Humanity endures. On Earth, weeks later, transmissions arrived. Families gathered in silence as casualty lists were read. Mothers wept. Children clutched at fathers who would never return. Cities lowered their lights in mourning. But amidst the grief, there was pride. Humanity had faced an enemy stronger than anything they had ever known, and they had prevailed. In a quiet apartment in New Berlin, a little girl named Leora watched the newsfeed. Her mother's face appeared in the memorial reel. Captain Ilara Vey, hero of Orion. The child did not cry. She pressed her hand against the screen and whispered softly, "I'll make you proud, Mama. I'll keep the stars burning." In the blackness of deep space, beyond the ruins of the Orion Belt, an encrypted signal pulsed faintly. A Xyrath survivor ship carried a message, broadcasting into the dark. The humans endure. They are not to be underestimated. Alert the high ascendancy. The war is not over. The void listened, the echoes carried far, and somewhere in that silence, humanity prepared for what was yet to come.